how's it going? It's Eclipse here, and today's video we take a look at one of my favourite tanks within the game. At least it was before Update 6.0 on World of Tanks. We're going to have a look at what it's like after Update 6.0, and to be honest, I would expect it actually plays much nicer. I mean, the gameplay in the background is a pretty decent one. We've got two gameplays here today to be able to check out and review and show you all about the Charioteer on World of Tanks. This is the Tier 8 British tank destroyer within World of Tanks. This one is actually really fun to play. You can do all sorts of things with this thing. It's mobile, has the ability to move around, you can move between the flanks, you can basically adapt to the situation as and when you need to. Of course, you see the turret twitching around, and yes, this is a fully rotatable turret, so you can actually turn the turret from whichever direction you want to be, so it's not limited by any kind of hole, yaw or anything like that, and so it's up to you how you want to use this. You don't have to be limited to one kind of side of the tank, or you don't have to limit yourself between what you're going to be firing at. It's basically one of those that you can play however you like to. Now, one problem with the Charioteer is that it has absolutely no armour as we get pumped from the hill up there by the CS. We try and auto-aim him, unfortunately we don't hit. Second problem. What is wrong with the Charioteer? Well, it is the aiming time on this gun. You basically have a super long aiming time, which is kind of annoying, but as long as you're kind of preempt where your opponents are going to be, you can basically set up previously before they get spotted, and you can use the view range of this tank and the camo that you can use in it. I use advanced optics, and I also use a camo advanced concealment to be able to remain undetected for the majority of the game, hence why you don't want to be getting hit or anything like that because you won't bounce. So staying undetected means that you're pretty much never going to get hit unless someone has the insight or brain power to actually shoot at a bush where you're going to be, or shoot at where they're getting shot from, even though you're undetected. And of course, for the majority of players, for some reason, they don't decide to ever do that. Now, T32, moving up the hill, he gets taken out very quickly, hence why when you're going up the hill, you never want to go that kind of side. You want to stay right as far back as possible, and yeah, you'll have a much better game. Now, as far as this game's going, of course we've picked up a little bit of assistance damage because we've been spotting all of the opponents to our left and on the opposite side of the hill as we get pumped from the hill again, I think, by the CS, which is super annoying, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of revenge on that little rat who's up there trying to shoot us in the back. Now, 2 marks of excellence on this thing, maybe our 3 mark it, don't really know. I haven't played in a massive or inordinate amount of games in the Charioteer, and I don't really know if I'll free market. I mean, I've had some fun games and I don't think I'm too far away. I think I'm about 90% in this thing, so maybe I'll do it in the next couple of games when I play it. As far as where you want to take your tank in a tank destroyer like this on Malinovka. Now, Malinovka, one of those maps that I actually quite enjoy within the game. Yes, it can be kind of difficult, but for the most part, if you play it correctly, you use your tank class. Yes, heavy tanks find it a little bit more difficult on this map because you have to go up the hill. It takes ages to get up there, and then when you do get up there, the artillery on the enemy team always takes about half your hit points, if not more, from you. Now, what you see here, we are using the concealment that the Charioteer gets to basically hit people without ever getting spotted until we do get spotted there. But that's just because he was so close, and of course there was a medium pushing aggressively that you can see there, the VKM. As far as what we can do now, it is kind of coming to the end part of the game. We have picked up 3,140 damage, which in a tier 8 isn't too bad. It's not the best game you'll ever see, but it's kind of showcasing you what you can do on Malinovka and the kind of DPM that this thing has, which is quite nice. We haven't fired any HESH rounds in this game yet, so that's one thing that we should probably think about when you play in the Charioteer, because being a British tank destroyer, yes, it does get HESH rounds, and that means that you can boost up that DPM even further should you manage to pen with your HESH rounds. Of course, you get the problem with if you don't pen, you actually lose a shit ton of DPM, because of course you're not going to be dealing as much damage because you didn't pen, and you're only doing like 100 damage per shot instead of 480 when you do pen, or 390 if you just fired AP in the first place. Of course, as the standard round, we get APCR, which is actually the best standard round you can get in the game because it's so fast, you don't have to lead as much. You're basically guaranteed to hit a little bit more than any other tank within this game. Now, what you did see, we loaded a Hesh round there to do 408 damage. Yes, this tank has 480 alpha damage with a Hesh round, so we got a little bit unlucky there, but we put one more into the Dragon for 442, of course, with the rubbish RNG rolls that you can get as he gets shut down by the AMX-13. F3, the artillery on our team, the broken one. I think it's a tier 6 or a tier 7. That one's a disgusting one to actually play in. And of course, now it is time for us to move up. Tiger Shark, aim, aim, done. Finished the game on 4,483 damage, which is actually a really good game in the Charioteer. I mean, yes, this is not a rare occasion within the Charioteer, because if you're firing that Hesh rounds, that's probably about 10 shells, which isn't the biggest amount, hence why we got only 1700 base XP. We're at 89.4% first class badge, 745 assistance, bringing the grand total of this game up to 5,100 alpha base combined damage, or whatever you want to call it. 3 enemies destroyed, and of course we'll move into the next bit of gameplay. The next gameplay is here on Arctic Region. Of course, this is the white version of the game. Of course, there was actually a summer version of Arctic Region, and I think that there was also some different version of Arctic Region as well. I think it was called like Pipeline or something like that, and it was like some weird novel kind of new reskinned version of Arctic Region. Of course, they are all not in the game currently because we basically don't have reskinned version of the maps right now, but what we do have is a standard one, and of course we can make best use of our knowledge and the 20,000 battles that we've played on World of Tanks to be able to perform a little bit better than average, to have some games where, you know, you can deal a decent amount of damage and get away with the win. Of course, T77 over there, now he's moved into a position that probably shouldn't be taking his heavy tank to, because yeah, it's just not that kind of map where you want to camp in your heavy tank, because you tend to lose if you just camp in heavy tanks. But we'll see whether it did actually work out for him in the end in this one. Now, we're just waiting. We've set up shop. We're going to use the position to our advantage, use the gun depression that this tank gets. I think it gets 10 degrees of gun depression. Obviously, if you use your Hesh rounds, you can have good games. And of course, if you fully aim in this tank, which we didn't just there and got a little bit lucky hitting the T77, you can definitely rack up damage pretty quickly. 7.5 second reload, meaning your alpha damage, if you have just the standard rounds and you're not firing Hesh, is probably in the region of about 3,000 DPM, which is definitely not bad for a tier 8 tank destroyer. Certainly not the best, and certainly if you've got things like the SU-152 or the ISU-152, if you've got that 750 alpha damage, you can probably have a better DPM chance when you're using it. But this one, you have the mobility, you have all of the extras that come along with a tank that has that kind of mobility and stuff like that, and you can get towards the damage. So that's the sort of things you have to think about when you're picking your tanks. Is your tank, yes, it may have this super high DPM like the Tortoise, but A, can you get to the damage quick enough? B, does your armour even work if it's meant to have armour? C, are you realistically the sort of player that likes playing that kind of tank? Because yes, you might like DPM, but if you're playing a tank that's super slow, your DPM might not be beneficial. Now, what you saw us do there is predict where the King Tiger would be, and we managed to actually pick up a second shot on him, which is really, really nice. We can pick up extra damage all of the time if you do that sort of thing and you're predicting where opponents are going to be, because yes, although they disappear in game, a lot of you comment in the comment section down below, people keep going undetected. Does that mean, you know, I can't hit them? Well, no. All it means is they've gone undetected. The tank is still actually there in the game, and if you actually use your kind of initiative and you move and prepare yourself for where they're probably or likely going to be, then what you can do is basically outspot them or outdamage them, because then what you can do, put your damage into them, even though they've gone undetected, they think they're safe, they're probably going to not be angling to the best of their ability against you, and you can pick up damage on them very, very easily and just win the game, to be honest with you. Now, But at 12T, he makes a bit of a misplay. I don't know quite why he's just YOLOing in after the arty, but luckily we don't have bot aim, and we're actually going to hit him both times with 2 shells, taking him out of the game and bringing our damage total up to 3,000 damage. Now, pretty decent game, as we talked about in the previous game. You know, picking up 3,000 damage is certainly not to be sniffed at in a tier 8 tank destroyer, but you know, it's not one of those games that you want to feature on the channel, at least from my point of view, because they come fairly often, for me at least. So yeah, trying to get one of those games where you have a little bit extra, or at least a talking point within the game, and talking about the sort of decision making stuff that you can do within a game, or certain aspects of a gameplay, or also kind of ways in which, yes, I may not pick the highest damage game I've ever had, but as long as the gameplay offers some kind of advice that I can give to you, and of course if we can have some talking points, then I think that it's good to always do that. And certainly this gameplay showed some mistakes that even I make when I play World of Tanks, because yes, I maybe have a 60% win rate, but sometimes you make decisions and sometimes it doesn't go very well. So Thanos here in his King Tiger, we're going to put 1 round into him, but unfortunately he does actually hit us back. Now we know that that thing has probably a higher DPM than us, so, or rate of fire, which means he'll be able to put 1 more shot into us than we would be able to put into him. And now we have to be a little bit careful, because there is an artillery, well, 2 of them in this game, and you know what lightly armoured tanks are like, and artillery, well, yes, there's been a few occasions where I've been one-shot in my Charioteer by some of the Sky pigs. Yeah, not so fun, but what we will do is gloss over that and we'll move towards actually having some good gameplay, at least for the minute. Now, 2 versus 6 is looking pretty dire for me at the minute. And yeah, 3,900 damage is certainly not too bad, not too shabby. Not the best game, but what we can do is put another shell in, 4,306 damage in our tank, and now it's a little bit stalemate here. Put 1 into him, got very lucky there actually to even hit that guy, because we were not fully aimed whatsoever. And yeah, we had a little bit of a nightmare here in just a second. So what I should have done at this point, get rid of this Hummel, take him out of the game. Now, what I needed to do is pull right back and go and support my teammate on the left-hand side of the flank. Unfortunately, what I do is I have the situational awareness of an absolute fly, and we decide to turn for the Dragon who's coming, who's reloading, and then I forget, actually, we need to look at the M44 who's coming down. And yeah, he hit us whilst bouncing on some rocks, so yeah, very interesting. Yes, he probably deserved that. Yes, I should have been looking at him before, but unfortunately, we don't win the game. We lose. We've got a Diamondback against 4 tanks, a slow tank that doesn't turn very well against a medium that's just pumping him in the side, and a SU-130 PM with its broken alpha damage and penetration that is just going to absolutely rinse him so easily. And yeah, not particularly the best game I have ever had in the Charioteer, but I think it's always good to showcase when, yeah, Eclipse does some boo-boos, makes some mistakes, and doesn't have the best game he could possibly have, because yes, I am human, I have terrible games within World of Tanks, and I think it's always good to showcase that. Yep, there you go, we saw 89.9%, 4,361 damage, 5 enemies destroyed, and we played like a bot right at the end of the game. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, remember to hit that like button, and if you want to check out more content like this gameplay video, then you can check that out on screen right now. Thank you very much to everyone that's watched this video, and of course to the channel members for supporting me that little bit extra. Really do appreciate all of you. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.